Hey, good morning or afternoon, guys. Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. I apologize for being out these last couple days. Actually, this whole first week, I'm going to be out after the break. You guys knew my mother-in-law wasn't doing well, and she'd actually done was a miracle that we got to keep her for 20 more days after brain surgery saved her life. But out of nowhere, the brain bleed returned, and she unfortunately passed away. So that's where I've been and dealing with that and trying to do what I can for my family to get things set in place for my father-in-law for the future and taking care of my wife and kids and things like that. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me here. I hope you enjoyed the movie Great Debaters. It is going to relate to some of the things that we look at today and here in the future with the civil rights movement. But I wanted to go ahead and do something to keep us going on notes. So we're going to take notes on section 2 today on our own. The good thing about this is you can pause me as we go if you need to, rewind, whatever you need to do. All right. So just to review where we left off, and I know this was a while ago before Christmas break, but we've already covered section 1 with the demand for civil rights and why it came about after World War II with the Great Migration, African Americans fighting in World War II and the horrors of World War II, fighting against racism around the world to return home and find we have racism right under our nose. The NAACP was an organization that fought to end segregation, and eventually they would be successful with the Supreme Court case we learned about, Brown v. Board of Education. All right, and that declared that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional, and it was going to change everything about public school segregation in America. Okay, we learned about Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott, really the kickoff point of the civil rights movement in 1955, where Martin Luther King Jr. became the clear leader of the whole civil rights movement. We learned about the Little Rock Nine in 1957 when 9 black students tried to enroll in Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it ended up in a showdown between President Eisenhower and the governor of Arkansas, and some riots, and school ended up closing down for the whole year the following year. Just some crazy stuff. All right. So section 2 we're going to cover today. We'll take notes on this: leaders and strategies. All right. Which organization was so go ahead and head your notes. All right. Section 2, leaders and strategies, and we'll get through this today and probably get on to section 3 tomorrow. All right. First organization we're going to talk about is CORE. It stands for Congress of Racial Equality, and CORE was established. It was in 1942, in the middle of World War II. It was an interracial organization, meaning it was a combination of all races involved in it, and they were dedicated to bringing about change through peaceful confrontation. And we're going to come back to this peaceful confrontation thing again here when we get to SCLC and the philosophy of nonviolence. That's going to be the bulk of our notes today. All right. It was directed by James Farmer. And to tie this into the movie you just finished, The Great Debaters, that was a true story. And James Farmer was actually the young guy on the debate team, the kid on the debate team that finally got to debate in the final one at Yale. So Yale or Harvard, I forget where it was. I think it was Yale. But real guy, and he would become a real big civil rights activist and leader. And this group, CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, is going to gain new support after World War II. All right. The bulk of our notes today is going to be here on number 2. What was the SCLC and what was the philosophy of nonviolence? All right. This and Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. So SCLC stands for Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference was formed by Martin Luther King Jr. and other clergymen. All right, so this is clergy are ministers, priests, pastors. Okay, this is a mix of a Christian organization that is also fighting for civil equality in America. Martin Luther King preached nonviolence and was inspired really by a couple of people in this, all right? And keep in mind, we'll get to it in section 5, but not all civil rights activists were down with this non-violent method of getting change, all right? A couple people that he took his these ideas from were Gandhi, who fought for independence for India from Britain's rule, and they actually talked about Gandhi in the movie Great Debaters, using civil disobedience. All right, Jesus Christ, who taught to turn the other cheek and to not react to violence with violence, and Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau wrote a book called Civil Disobedience. All right, and this principle of civil disobedience is, if you think that something is wrong, all right, it's not right, a rule, a law like segregation, all right, then disobey it intentionally. Don't go along with it, just like Rosa Parks did by not giving up her seat on the bus. Disobey it and take whatever punishment comes your way. So peacefully disobey laws that should not be laws at all, laws that are unjust, laws that oppress, laws that are unfair, all right? Fill up the jails, okay, but never react in a violent way. And we'll see why, how this is going to go down the road, all right? So it taught to disobey unjust laws that oppress. So like in the South with segregation, all right? Intentionally disobey those laws, okay, and get thrown in jail. We're going to see the sit-in movement where restaurants that had segregation, people were just going to go in and sit down peacefully. They're going to be carried out. That's all right. Get up, walk back in, and sit back down, but never react violently. All right. Martin Luther King Jr. believed, as civil disobedience teaches, that nonviolence is the only way to win over a stronger enemy. All right. Minorities are called minorities for a reason, because they don't make up a majority of the population. All right. So, African Americans only make up like 8% of the population. Not violence is not really a good option because they're just going to look like the bad guys. Nonviolence, disobey unjust laws and get the majority, get everybody to see that what you're fighting for is right and just, and get everybody on board with your cause. All right. It's the only way to achieve victory against a stronger enemy. The importance of this is the SCLC and the Martin Luther King are going to shift the civil rights movement to the South, where it is really needed. Okay. Martin Luther King Jr. So the key guy in leading the civil rights movement, we'll learn a little bit about him here. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929. He was his father and his grandfather were both Baptist ministers. All right, they're men of the church. He graduated early from high school and earned a doctorate in college, all right, which is the highest degree you can get at a university in theology. A really smart guy. He would become the most influential leader of the entire civil rights movement, starting in 1955 with the Montgomery bus boycott and all the way up to his death in 1968. He even won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. It's a prize that goes to the human being in the world who most promotes peace and harmony in the world. Pretty big achievement. And as I alluded to earlier, he's not going to see the end of the civil rights movement. He's going to be assassinated on April 4th of 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee, standing on his balcony at a hotel called the Lorraine. He was there for a union was striking, and he was there to support this union. And a man shot him on his balcony. The night before, he gave a speech. It was called the Mountaintop Speech, and it was a really good speech. And in that speech, he essentially predicted his own death, as he had many times before. And he said, "It's not about me. I've seen the mountaintop. I'm not going to get there with you. All right, I'm not going to get over the mountain with you, but you'll get there without me." And to me, that's a credit to him. Knowing he has 4 young kids at home and a wife, and still fought for what he felt was right, even knowing that it was going to cost him his life, because a lot of people wanted this guy dead. And on April 4th, 1968, one of them finally got to him. All right, we're going to learn about a number of assassinations through the 1960s here. Martin Luther King is just one of them. Okay, last one we'll do today. This SNCC, another civil rights organization. SNCC, SNCC, stands for Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. What was different about them is they were founded by students. All right, so this was for younger civil rights activists, high school and college students, to keep up with the younger African American demands. You know, the youth, teenagers, early 20s don't always agree with the older generation, with their parents, and want to see things go a different way. And so this organization is going to give them a voice in that. All right. Primarily, what they wanted different was more immediate change. All right. They wanted to see things change quicker. Brown v. Board of Education was decided in 1954, and yet most of the schools in the South were still segregated. Most, Jim Crow laws in the South still existed. So they wanted to see more immediate change. Now, we're going to see later in this story, SNCC is going to actually change gears entirely and become something totally different when we get into Section 5. All right. But this would shift the focus away from church leaders alone and give the youth activists in America a voice. Okay. All right, we'll stop right there, guys. If you need to go back, rewind, whatever, watch this again, that's fine. I can't wait to get back to see you. I will be back in on Monday. Okay. And until then, guys, take care.